Welcome to the Miami Jewish Film Festival, the world's largest festival of its kind. We want to thank all of our members, sponsors, community partners, and all of you, film lovers, and especially our presenting sponsors, the Center for the Advancement of Jewish Education and the Greater Miami Jewish Federation, for their continued support throughout the years. I'm Rabbi Lila Haas. I am the Director of Adult Learning and Growth for the Center for the Advancement of Jewish Education, and I'm excited and thrilled to be moderating a virtual conversation with Brad King and Erwin Georgi from the film Bancoco, which is premiering at this year's festival. Thank you both for joining us. It's really a pleasure to be here and to dive even deeper into this film. I feel like it was such a beautiful exploration of human beings, of relationship, and of connection, and look forward to hearing more from you as we sort of take our own little journey, if you will, together. So Brad, I'm really curious to dig a little bit deeper into what brought you back 20 years later. You know, you were in the jungle, you met these amazing people, but you weren't there very long, but something was tugging at your heartstrings to bring you back. And I don't know if you could just sort of explore that further with us.
Well, this may sound a little simplified, but I promised I would come back. I keep my promises. I didn't know it was going to take so long. I knew one day I was going to come back. It just was a matter of timing. And that's why I went back. I knew I had to see my friends again.
So you talk a lot about this love of adventure and this pull of what life has, you know, from your family and creating memory. And I'm curious if you could sort of share with us those moments. You know, we see in the film you showing these pictures and people smiling and lighting up, but just sort of talk a little bit more about like the power of those memories and what it was like to actually experience it firsthand as people were looking at younger versions of themselves. And then also some of those really heart-wrenching moments of remembering people who were no longer there. What was that like to be there?
You know, we had so much uncertainty when we went back, not really knowing if we were going to find them at all. And then if we did find this village, which is nestled so deep in the forest, how would we even recognize them? It was so many years later. And then if we did recognize them, how would they react? And, you know, it's human nature to put yourself in those shoes and say, how would I react? But that's not really so fair, right? Because they're a completely different culture. And Layla, maybe I could ask you this question. Do you know what you looked like as a child?
You know, it's funny. I thought about that, right? I know what I look like just from pictures around my home or, you know, from my parents showing video and film. And I also have a 2-year-old. And so now knowing that wherever he walks around in the home, he's confronted, right, with a massive amount of pictures of just his 2 little years on this earth.
So if I could interrupt you, that's my next follow-up question is, what if you did not have any pictures of your childhood and did not know what you looked like? Think about that. Yeah. You know, and people feel their childhood would have been missing. So these are some of the things that went through in my mind. To answer your question, when there was so much anticipation of being able to share and not knowing how would they react, because these people still to this day do not live with electricity. So they live in huts in the jungle. And when they saw their pictures, and Erwin will confirm this with you, there wasn't the reaction that we were anticipating, because what we anticipated was, you know, a very dramatic response. But what we really got was a reaction that is more realistic, which is you just stare. Somebody gives you a picture, comes out of the forest, you don't know who they are. 20 years later, they say, I have your childhood photo. When they saw that, all they did was stare at them for hours. You know, it was very emotional for them. They almost, think about it, you almost do not know how to react because it's such an, you know, odd kind of emotion to have that, because none of us really have that, right? Most of us grew up having our pictures.
Sure. And Erwin, for you as the director of photography and shooting this film, I mean, I think for you especially, the power of photography and of film takes on even a new layer of meaning. So I don't know if you could, just sort of share
For
with
me,
us.
yeah, for me since the beginning was a very interesting story when Brad told me and decided to take me into this adventure. Like I say from one day to another, he tell me, "Jos, let's go to the jungle." I tell him, Brad, we don't know what we're gonna find, but at least we can shoot the adventure. We will shoot whatever we find in the way. We don't know what we want to find, but of course we start thinking about all the reactions that they will have. And in my mind, of course, you have a Western idea of how you react to pictures, and you were expecting the same reaction from these people that never seen themselves before in pictures. But of course, it's a unique experience for them to see a picture of themselves for the first time. So the reaction was different than what we expected. But what it brought to the village was a lot of joy and happiness to see all these people from the past and all these memories and all the stories. And even it's funny to see Brad going back and see if somebody could recognize him, from 20 years ago, this American that went there and but there was big memories of you, no, Brad? You can explain a little bit of what the memories that people have from you from that moment.
It was a beautiful surprise that somebody actually did remember that I was there. And that was that one family that, invited me into their home. And that was another reason why I wanted to go back, because they invited me into their home, not just because I needed a place to stay. They had me in another hut, but it wasn't working out. And they basically provided me shelter to keep me safe and cooked for me and gave me mosquito netting and treated me like family. And I really bonded with them. And I promised I would come back one day.
Yeah, the power of that promise for sure is you can feel that throughout the entire story. Erwin, share with us a little bit about the challenges and also some of the surprises of actually filming this type of a journey. And we had some really interesting, beautiful aerial shots, and just if you could sort of share some of the mechanics of what it means to film in this type of an environment and to capture the story so powerfully.
Well, it was interesting because we were traveling with a very small crew. It was practically me, Brad, and another person traveling through the jungle. So we needed to prepare. Well, I mean, that's the beauty of the nowadays, how you can shoot a film, that you can do it with a small production. It's not like it used to be before, that you needed millions of dollars and all these huge crews. So nowadays, the technology has advanced to the points that permit you to have a smaller crew and more like personal shooting. So the preparation was a little bit tough, and we needed to deal with what we can carry with us. But technology has advanced so much that we can carry a drone, or we can carry so many other things that give you all these opportunities to shoot in the jungle. And shooting a guy like Brad, that you have he's full of energy and action, so he never stops. So for me, it was like, I have to follow whatever he's doing and just follow him throughout his journey. And that was that was a challenge, but at the same time, I like to let things flow as naturally as possible. I don't want to put too much, make Brad wait for too long, or I just need to adjust to the moment. I don't want to be like, okay, let's wait, half an hour for the camera to charge or anything like that. I need to be ready for whenever Brad he has and the new adventure, the new moments that we had in the jungle.
Layla, could I add to that question? Because I witnessed this firsthand.
Yes, please.
We never knew what we were going to find next. As you could tell, this was all raw. Nothing was planned. And for some reason, everything we did was something interesting to film. So no matter where we went, Erwin had that camera. And even if we stepped away from the hut for 10 minutes, something happened, somebody came by and he went to grab the camera, and he was, basically, crossing these rivers in canoes, filming. It wasn't an easy situation. Let me say that. He was very talented and he was always filming. And at the same time, he was translating. My Spanish really isn't very good. Now, the tribe speaks Spanish and Embera. I would say half of them spoke Spanish, and Erwin is Spanish speaking. So he was shooting and translating at the same time. It was very challenging. But as you can tell, I think we pulled it off.
Yeah, absolutely. And same thing, just even the way you mentioned it, just very natural. And I think that was also one of the interesting pieces about the film, is that you just felt like you were along for this journey with you. I mean, we weren't jumping into the water and we weren't trying to get onto the canoe and all those things, but we really did feel like we were walking that adventure with you and uncovering those moments alongside you. Brad, I think it's one thing for people to go on a journey, to take pictures, to make a promise, and to go back. But most people don't think about filming it for the purpose of telling a story to share with so many. What was the impetus for you to say, yeah, I'm going to go back, I'm going to fulfill my promise, but then what was the next step? Why tell this story through a film, and why show it at festivals? What do you hope the audience will get from this experience?
Okay, well, that's a good question. Because I've had this history of traveling and adventure traveling, I've always come back with great stories. So I always shared those stories with my friends. And a lot of times, I share the stories. Storytelling is accompanied by photos. A picture's 1,000 words. So I've been storytelling my whole life with video and pictures. This was just a continuation of something I've always done, and I mean, it's not difficult to anticipate that something good could come out of this reunion after so many years, because a lot happens in 2 decades. And so, you want to document cool things, interesting things. And when you have that, you want to share it because it's something beautiful that people can benefit from. Now, what do I want an audience to get out of this is whatever they want to take from it. I think the good news is, and we're very fortunate, the way this movie was not only shot, but post-production wise, is that there's a lot of positivity. And I think there's always something positive that somebody will get from this movie. And whatever that is for them, if it makes the world a better place or it makes them happier or just puts a smile on their face, then we've done our job.
That's nice. It sort of ties in beautifully with the idea that, we're celebrating Hanukkah and Christmas is coming and then a new year, is that even during dark times, we always have the ability to be a spark of light and to help illuminate the world and to help make somebody else's light brighter. And so I saw a lot of that as I was watching the film, was just even in simple moments. We tend to forget that just these simple wonderful opportunities to make someone else smile, or the simple joy of laughing. And you saw so much laughter and sweetness and wonder with the people and their children, and sort of just reimagining what life was, and then looking at what their life was today. For all of us watching and being introduced to your friends, what do we need to know? What's important for us to take away about the relationships that you've made? And then are the connections still there? And what's important for us to know?
My bond with them is so strong and never ends. And, many of them have communication, like cell phones. They may not have electricity, but they could charge their phones off a car battery or a generator. And there is a tower that's about 10 miles away. So we communicate a lot.
Oh, nice.
And you know what? As different as they are, the way they live and how difficult life is and how fragile life is in the jungle, the lack of drinking water, there's no medicine, there's no doctors. I mean, people are in pain, but they'll never complain. Nobody is on medication for depression and anxieties. I mean, if the way we live today, we just live 10% of the way they live, we'd all be a mess. And so at the end of the day, they are like us, that were just human. They have emotions. There were a few deaths that occurred during this film process of 4 years. And we were connected very closely, and a few of the main characters that you saw in this film are no longer with us. And it was heartbreaking, not only for me, but for them. And you could see that even though life is so fragile and they die a lot easier because they could die of childbirth or the flu, the effects of losing a loved one is the same as it is with us. It's painful.
Sure.
And these are people that, what they do for fun is very simple. They go down to the river and they go swimming. They live a hard life, but they enjoy life and they respect life and they respect each other.
Those are wonderful lessons that all of us can, to remind ourselves of, not just the blessings that are around us, but also of the joy that we can receive from just remembering the simple pleasures, the simple joys, the simple moments, and to cherish those things for sure. She said it took 4 years. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, we went back in 2017, and when we left, we were there 4 or 5 days. We had a lot of footage, and we thought, well, let's put this together and see what we have. But my newly acquainted friends, I made a lot more friends on this reunion trip. Kept asking me every month, when am I coming back? When am I coming back? Because they missed me and I missed them. So I went back a year later, not to really continue shooting for this film, but because I needed to see them again, because I reconnected, And then, of course, I called up Erwin. I said, we're going back.
Yeah,
Get all the gear together.
I tell him, let's shoot. Let's shoot, because you never know what stories we're gonna find this time that we go to the forest. And another thing that I wanted to say before I forget, that actually the first, like, the connection with Brad, we went back to them and they saw a rough cut of the film. We projected the film in the community to everybody. We tried to make it happen, put like a little thing to project, and had a little projector, and did like a festival for all the community to come. We did like a food for make some food for them, and they could cook a big animal, and everybody joined to watch the film together when it was a rough cut. So it was a special moment for us to take, before showing to anybody else, showing to the community too.
Oh, that's so nice. Are there plans to go back?
Okay, Layla. So before we talk about that, there's one other thing I wanted to say. Is I went back a month ago, but I only made it as far as Panama City. About 25 people showed. 20 of those people live in the outskirts of Panama City, as you saw in the movie. So they came in by buses, and those were 5 to 8 hour bus rides. The reason why I went back is because they kept asking me all along, how's the film coming? Well, it was finished and I needed to show them. Alberto, who you know from the film, and Bellica, one of the other main characters, came all the way from the jungle, and it took them they left the jungle at 5 a.m. and got to Panama City 8 p.m. Buses and taxis and boats, maybe 14 hours of traveling, and they showed up, no complaints that they were hungry or tired, which they were. They all watched the movie, and many of them were crying and laughing, but for completely different reasons than you and I or people from our society are going to have those emotions. Completely different reasons. And so when you said going back, I just went back recently, but I don't know if we're going to be going back into the jungle anytime soon, because we have learned about, well, not learned, but we've always known about the dangers of being in the Darien. Is a very dangerous place. Well, unfortunately, people know who Bancoco is. And I'm considered somewhat of a target now. When I go into that jungle, I don't think I have any risk or problems with the Embera people. They're a very peaceful, loving, indigenous tribe. but there are adjacent villages and towns that have heard of me. And I don't know if we're going to be going back as much as we'd like to for safety
Yeah.
reasons.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. But I am glad that they got to see the film recently. So that's exciting. Wonderful. Any other stories or that you want to share with us that we haven't touched on so far?
Erwin, should we mention about Alberto and his? Well, that's really a spoiler. We should save that for the viewer.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and for sure, it was an adventure to travel with Brad, throughout the jungle. I didn't expect that to happen, and it was, before we traveled together even once, the two of us, and it was very intense and interesting and experience that we'll never forget, experience that we'll never forget is, I mean, and
That's
now
a good word.
it's beautiful to have something to show to people that we did together. We just wanted so for people to experience and have that connection. Like for sometimes the memories represent, with photos that we don't such an important part of our life, but for some people they don't even exist. We even had that question like, do you think they have seen themselves before? And we thought, okay, they could see themselves, the reflection in the water. Maybe they saw themselves in the water, but do they keep the memories even if they saw themselves in the water? So all those questions were there for us to answer throughout the trip. But to tell you the truth, there's so many fun moments and funny, like the connection between Brad and the people was they were having a blast with Brad. Like and there's so many things that are out of the movie because of time constraints. You need to build a story that you cannot put everything in the movie. But there's so many incredible scenes of Brad sharing time with I mean, I just saw joy between both of them, from the community enjoying this New Yorker guy that come from the concrete jungle to this jungle and become their friend, and just it was a very natural bond, like even it's just a natural thing. You connect between humans, when you go with good intentions, there's no problems that you connect more easily.
Yeah. Well, it definitely left me, reminding myself the power of memory, the importance of sharing those photos, not to take them for granted, to print them out, actually, not just to keep them on my phone, because the experience of sharing those memories and to have those as those momentum was really something to not take for granted. And wanted to thank you both so much for introducing us to these incredible people, and for reminding us about the power of relationship, about promises and keeping those promises, and what real connection with other human beings can bring such joy and light to our lives. So thank you so much for doing that and for bringing this film to us.
And thank us also to give us the opportunity to showcase it in your festival. We appreciate the chance. Of course, Brad is the Bancoco. He's the one, the main guy here, the one that created the story. So I'm also proud of him for just finishing the movie, because I know how tough it is to, after you have all this material, to put it together, and make something good that you can connect with people.
Yes. Well, thank you both, Brad and Erwin, so much for joining us. And once again, thank you to all of our members, our sponsors, our community partners and volunteers, and all the film lovers for participating in the Miami Jewish Film Festival. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Rabbi Haas, for also the Miami Jewish Film Festival for selecting my film to be in their festival as a local Miami filmmaker. This is a big honor.